Grayson's grades right now at 97.3ESPN.com. Let's bring in Scott Grayson. He was working late last night inside the locker room. Scott, I'll get your initial reaction inside that locker room. You tell us about what it looks like in there all the time. From what I heard, it might have been one of the most somber atmospheres in a long, long time in there. The realization that they are simply not good enough.
Yeah, it's more what you see on the face than what you heard. The guys didn't say that they feel like, they're down to their last straw here, but it's certainly the way you see and what you saw on their faces was the realization and the understanding that they know the Saints are on deck. They missed an opportunity again here, and that they're, maybe not dead and buried, but they're on life support, and they've got a very steep uphill climb if they're going to make something out of the rest of this season.
Okay, so let me start with last night. You're down 13-3 after at half, 13-13 going into the fourth. The injuries kind of creep in here. I look at the quarterback and say, if he plays better, they probably win the game. I thought, look, the defense had their issues in the fourth quarter. There were some injuries, that led to that. But I thought Wentz left a lot of plays out there last night.
Well, they really all did. I mean, I'll see your criticism of Wentz, and I'll raise you the defense at the end of the first half. I think you look at that touchdown that the Cowboys got at the end of the first half, and that was, in a certain extent, demoralizing because they were using timeouts, the Eagles were, to get the ball back, and they convert a 3rd and long and suddenly go down, and Dak crosses the goal line on, right there at the 1, and that gave the Cowboys that 13-3 lead at the half. If it was just 6-3, who knows? Maybe we're talking different. I mean,
I agree too. Like there's certain plays and drives that the defense, you're just like, are you kidding me? Come on here. But at big picture, at the end of a day, you give up. They give up 20 points a game. They're 6th best in the league there. I looked at their scoring, Scott. They scored over 30 points 9 times last year. They've scored over 30 once this year, and they haven't scored over 25 at all other than the one game they scored over 30. I still look at the fact that in a league that gives you points just for showing up, they can't score, man. What is wrong with this offense?
You look at, and I keep going in my mind, okay, so what's different from last year to this year? And to me, the biggest thing is look at the number of running plays that Doug Peterson is calling. Game to game to game, they have no running attack at all. Josh Adams broke off a couple of runs yesterday. His yards per carry the last couple of games have been respectable, but they don't stick with it. They don't draw anything there, and opponents are easily sitting back on their heels, and they're just playing the pass. So, Carson Wentz has to thread needles more frequently because there's no need to worry about any kind of running game from the Eagles. You look at last year. You could give, even if they had Jay Ajayi healthy this year, you'd see him churning up 3-4 times. Doug Peterson would likely be giving him the ball a lot more. And right now, 14 carries from your running backs yesterday. That no wonder there's no rhythm on offense. There's no sense of being able to wear down an opposing defense. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing from that offense and part of the reason why they can't do anything in the red zone.
And I mean, I'm not saying that Wentz was an F last night. I thought in the first half he could have been an F. He was terrible in the first half. His numbers at the end of the day, much better. He was throwing high. He just didn't look like himself last night. I don't know. Just didn't seem like he had – I mean, he made a couple of nice throws, but a lot of stuff was high. A lot of stuff was wide. I don't think he was crisp and sharp. And I kept saying, man, if he just was on his game last night, I thought they would win the game, the way that game was going.
He looked to me like he was maybe took a step back on his timing of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you in that sense. And, one play that comes to mind was, I think it was in the first half, Alshon Jeffrey over the middle in the red zone. And the pass was maybe a split second late, and that allowed the defender to have the time to break up the pass on Jeffrey there. And that maybe if he gets that out just a split second sooner, I think he double clutched on the play, that perhaps that's a touchdown. We're talking maybe a little differently today. But it's those kind of things that you just don't see. And now you look at, okay, well, he's constantly having Jason Peters in and out. He's got Lane Johnson in and out. How much faith does he have in that offensive line? I got to tell you, I don't know that I would have a lot of faith to be keeping my eyes downfield full-fledged all the time either. But Carson Wentz is the franchise quarterback. franchise quarterbacks need to bring you back in the fourth quarter. They need to finish the deal. He did a couple of times, but not enough to be able to secure it. And I blame Wentz, quite frankly, on the throw to Ertz that brought him back across the first down marker on that one play that they didn't get the fourth down conversion late in the game.
Yep.
So, I think there's definitely stuff to clean up there for sure.
No doubt. Scott Grayson's grades posted. You gave Jim Schwartz an F. Now, let me ask you about what is so different about the way he's calling a game as opposed to what he, about the team last year.
To me, I think all coaches tend to be, all might be a little harsh. Maybe 90% of them tend to be very stubborn in the way that they call games. And they say, well, I have the next man up. I should be able to call the game the same way. Well, you don't have Rodney McLeod out there. You don't have Jalen Mills. You don't have, and some people might be happy about that right now, but you don't have your guys. You don't have your starters. You're on the depth chart at many positions further down, and in some cases, maybe even to your third guy. It drives me crazy that they get third and extremely long, and they have, 14 yards, 18 yards to go, and you see them, and it's like the kiss of death from up at the press box. We look down, and there's like 5 to 6 defensive backs all lined up at the first down marker. And these opponents are converting those because these guys are not coming up and making the tackles. They're missing the tackles. They're not meeting at the ball carrier and getting 2 to 3 guys at the ball. And it drives me insane that they keep doing that and giving up those first down conversions. And so I see Jim Schwartz calling the defense the same way as he would if he had all his starters from training camp. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. He still doesn't have his defensive line fully intact. He's not getting that pass rush that he's used to getting a year ago. They didn't stop the run yesterday like they've been able to do, and let that be the way that their defense starts flowing downhill. So they've got a lot of issues. I don't see any changes being made in the play calling defensively. And to a certain extent, he's handcuffed with the talent he has, but he's calling it the same way and not trying to play or call the game to what he's got, perhaps, that he could use to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's 13 points they give up after the third, and then they just fall apart in that fourth. That's right around when Darby went out, and they were picking on the kid Sullivan. They're picking on Rasul Douglas. And because they were able to throw on those two guys, that opened up the running game. And I think you wrote about it, that they gave up 97 of the 151 in the second half. I'd like to see how many of that was in that fourth quarter when they were able to throw the ball at will on that just depleted secondary. With that, Rasul Douglas, he's a guy, you mentioned Mills. People hate Mills. They want him out. Many people wanted to see Douglas in. Is last night why they don't play Douglas more?
I've been wanting to see more Douglas because I just thought that he's always around the ball. He has been in the past. Last year when he came in and had to play some meaningful time, I thought he did pretty well. Last night, disappointed. I thought Rasul missed tackles at key moments in the game on the sidelines and allowed big plays to occur, and that can't happen. He got beat on some inside slants. He was just late recognizing and getting over to try to break up the pass. You shake your head right now and think, okay, now they don't have Ronald Darby, and you don't really know that you can count on anybody else they got. I'm kind of waiting and watching. Who are you going to try to sign as a free agent right now? Who can you bring in? I mean, you just can't. You're really stuck in the back end. And then you look at the Saints, and it's just, I mean, I know we're not looking ahead yet, but it just, how are they going to be able to try to do anything to keep themselves in this game? And Rasul needs to play better for sure.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned the fact that last year they tackled you. This year they're not tackling. That's been a big issue for me. With this defense, they got a lot of turnovers last year. That helped. But they also tackled you last year. That's one of the big problems that I personally have with this defense is they don't tackle nearly as well. And it seems like that desire, that heart, that effort is just not the same. It's like, do I really want to stick my nose in there and make this tackle, or should I let somebody else kind of do it? And I see a lot of that.
Yeah, and I give that blame to Jim Schwartz as well, because I think you have to recognize poor tackling and and it's not just like it just happened in this last game. It's been a problem all year long, and you got to think, okay, well, let's do some more tackling drills, even on dummies, like just form tackling, how to properly do it. Let's get back to the basics, guys. And there's none of that, and it just continues to be a problem. I agree with you. Last year they met at the ball carriers. They brought him down. One guy would even just do his best to keep him in place. Another guy would come in and finish him off. But the form, they're going low. They're not, or they're going high and not wrapping up. it's just not good. And I don't see any indication that it's truly being worked on much in practice.
Right, which if you call his defense to what he was doing last year, it was working because they were tackling. If he's calling the same defense, it's not working because they're not tackling. There's so many missed tackles that style of defense is now blowing up in his face for the most part.
Agreed. And how many times has it been the guys who are getting there, right? They're getting home on the pressure and they're just not bringing down the quarterback. Or, in some cases last night, receivers who get out there. It's just a one-on-one, you versus me, make the tackle, and we move on to the next play, and they miss the tackle. And in some cases it could force a punt. Instead, they move the chains. And I think that happened late in the first half when the Cowboys scored that touchdown before halftime. There was a missed tackle, I think, by Douglas that led to a continuation of the drive and eventually the touchdown.
By the way, 4 sacks for the Eagles last night. So they, were able to get to Dak a couple of times. I don't think Dak played all that great. I thought that the big difference was the ability for them to run the ball. Obviously, Zeke Elliott had a monster game, and the Eagles just couldn't tackle. 19 for 151. He absolutely gashed them, and at key times late in the game. Let's go to one other guy here, Golden Tate. And I know you posted on our website, 973ESPN.com. You can go inside the Eagles locker room and check out the video of all the key Eagles after the game and hear what they had to say. But Golden Tate, where was he last night? I did not like Peterson's explanation of, we ran tempo, so that's why he wasn't out there as much.
No, I couldn't believe the lack of snaps for him. Even if, you're worried that he hasn't yet grasped certain plays, him being on the field will certainly help in ways that the defense has to account for him. And they didn't do that. I expected them to go 3, maybe 4 screenplays to him, all different designs, or even something out of the backfield, a jet sweep or something like that. You got to give that guy touches. That's why you brought him in. And here you are in a game. You have to win, really. And you didn't you left bullets in the gun, quite frankly, I felt, in Doug Peterson's case. I just expected the first play of the game to even go to him. Get this guy going. Let's see what you got.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I thought first play of the game, little wide receiver screen, but let him kind of show what he's all about and get him, right into the game. I don't remember him getting his first touch last night.
His first touch came. He wasn't even on the field for the first snap. I do remember that, and his first touch came later. And I just don't understand sometimes what Doug Peterson's doing. And, we've asked this, we've thought this, we went in the offseason, it was the conversation. How much of last year's success offensively was due to Frank Reich and DeFilippo? Well, I think we're seeing that it was more than maybe some people were willing to admit in some cases. Some people had it nailed down. Right now, their opening script stinks. They're not getting any production in the first quarter. That's been highlighted and documented. 7 of 9 first quarters this season, they haven't scored. So, they have issues early. And you talked about last year. They would get out of the gate quickly. The defense would be able to start making a team one-dimensional by stopping the run. The offense would go down and score, and off they are to victory. Here, you're coming from behind almost every week, and you just can't do that in this league.
Scott Grayson's grades, they're posted right now at 973ESPN.com, along with video from inside the locker room last night. Check it out right now at 973ESPN. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you, Mike.